What stands in the way becomes the way. This profound insight from Marcus Aurelius isn't just a reminder, it's a challenge, a blueprint for building a mindset that can endure anything life throws at us. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic, where every day brings new uncertainties, the question arises, what makes a mindset truly unbreakable? Is it sheer willpower, relentless positivity, or something deeper? Today, we're diving into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy that has guided some of history's greatest minds, to uncover the tools you need to master resilience, face adversity head-on, and emerge stronger every time. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change the way you approach not just challenges, but life itself. How often do we stress over what we can't change? Think about it. How much of our mental energy is spent worrying about things like other people's opinions, unavoidable traffic, or even the weather? Yet, no matter how much we obsess, these things remain entirely outside our control. This is where one of the most fundamental lessons of Stoic philosophy comes into play, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said it best, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." This simple yet profound truth is at the heart of building a resilient mindset. Let me break it down. According to this teaching, our lives are divided into two categories. First, there are things within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our decisions. These are areas where we have the power to make meaningful choices. Then, there are things we cannot control, other people's opinions, external events, outcomes, or even the past. The Stoics believed that true freedom and ultimately peace of mind lies in focusing your energy exclusively on what you can control and letting go of the rest. Let's bring this to life with a simple example. Imagine you've been working hard on a project at work. You've poured your time, effort, and creativity into it. But when it's presented, a colleague criticizes your approach, and maybe you feel dismissed or undervalued. The natural reaction might be anger, frustration, or even doubt in your own abilities. But take a moment. What's really happening here? Can you control how this person reacts? No. Their opinions, biases, or moods are completely beyond your influence. What you can control, however, is how you respond. You can choose to acknowledge their feedback without taking it personally, reflect on whether there's anything constructive to learn, and continue to focus on improving your work. By redirecting your energy toward your actions and responses, rather than their opinion, you take back your power. The beauty of this principle is that it applies to almost every stressor in life. Let's say you're stuck in traffic and you're running late for an important meeting. You can't move the cars in front of you, and you can't rewind time to leave earlier. But what you can control is how you handle the situation. Maybe you use the time to breathe, plan your next steps, or even make a quick call to notify others of the delay. By choosing your response instead of letting frustration build, you stay in control of your emotions. Now, here's a moment for reflection. Think about one thing that's currently stressing you out. Maybe it's a strained relationship, a looming deadline, or even a global event. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, what would it look like to let go of that worry? And if the answer is yes, what action can you take right now to address it? These questions are powerful because they help you reframe your perspective, shifting your focus to what truly matters. The dichotomy of control isn't about ignoring the world around you or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about being intentional, placing your energy where it has the greatest impact. And once you start practicing this, you'll discover something extraordinary: freedom. Freedom from unnecessary stress and anxiety. Freedom to focus on what you can change, and to accept what you cannot. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action," what stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't just a philosophical riddle, it's a reminder that our perception shapes everything. What we see as a roadblock, a failure, or a disaster doesn't carry inherent meaning. It's neutral. The meaning, whether good or bad, is something we assign to it. And here's the game-changing truth. By mastering our perception, we gain the power to rewrite how we experience hardship. Let's break this down. Challenges, by their very nature, test us. But the Stoics believed that the obstacle itself isn't what causes our suffering, it's our interpretation of it. Imagine you lose your job. In the moment, it might feel like the end of the world. The fear of financial instability, the self-doubt creeping in, the uncertainty of what's next, all of these emotions stem from the judgment that losing this job is a purely negative event. But what if you paused, stepped back, and asked yourself, could this experience teach me something? Could it open a new door? Could it be an opportunity to explore a career path I've always dreamed of but never dared to pursue? By shifting your perception, you transform what feels like a setback into a potential turning point. Here's another example. Think about a time when a relationship, whether with a partner, friend, or colleague, didn't go the way you hoped. Maybe there was conflict, or perhaps the connection simply faded. It's easy to interpret this as a failure or even as a reflection of your worth, but perception invites you to ask deeper questions. What can this teach me about myself? How can I grow from this? Maybe the experience was an opportunity to set healthier boundaries, to communicate more clearly, or to recognize when it's time to let go. When you reframe the situation, you stop seeing it as something that happened *to *you, and start seeing it as something that happened *for *you. This idea of mastering perception doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending challenges don't hurt. It's about recognizing that you have a choice in how you respond. Pain, struggle, and uncertainty are inevitable parts of life, but suffering, dwelling endlessly in negativity, is optional. Imagine facing a storm. You can curse the rain and feel miserable, or you can accept that it's there, grab an umbrella, and keep walking. The storm doesn't change it, but your experience of it does, simply by reshaping your perspective. Now, let's take a moment to reflect. Think about a recent challenge in your life. Maybe it was a disagreement, a missed opportunity, or a plan that didn't work out. How did you interpret it in the moment? Did you label it as purely bad without considering what it might teach you? What would happen if you tried reframing it as an opportunity for growth, resilience, or even gratitude? By practicing this mental shift regularly, you train your mind to see obstacles not as threats but as possibilities. This is the heart of mastering perception. Challenges will come, that's life. But when you step back, reassess, and reshape how you see them, you gain the power to transform not just the obstacle, but yourself. What stands in the way truly becomes the way. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This simple yet profound exercise, a deliberate encounter with discomfort, is key to one of the most practical Stoic principles, cultivating voluntary discomfort. It's the idea that by choosing to face minor hardships willingly, we strengthen our minds to handle the inevitable trials that life will throw at us. Think of it as mental strength training for resilience. Now, why would anyone choose discomfort in a world where we're constantly seeking ease and convenience? The answer lies in preparation. When we step into discomfort on purpose, we strip it of its power to intimidate us. We learn that we can endure more than we think, and in doing so, we replace fear of the unknown with confidence in our ability to persevere. It's not about making life harder than it needs to be, but about creating a safe space to practice resilience. By doing so, we harden our mindset for the real challenges that are bound to come, and they will come. Take a cold shower as an example. For most people, the thought of stepping into freezing water is enough to send shivers down their spine. But when you take that first breath and let the cold envelop you, you're practicing more than just enduring the physical sensation. You're building mental discipline. You're showing yourself that you can withstand discomfort and remain in control, even when your instincts are screaming to escape. Over time, this seemingly small act builds mental toughness, teaching you how to respond calmly and confidently when faced with bigger, unavoidable discomforts in life. Another example is fasting. Choosing to go for a set period without food isn't just about physical health, it's about mastering your impulses. In a world where hunger is often met with instant gratification, fasting reminds you that you can endure temporary discomfort without unraveling. It demonstrates that you're not a slave to your cravings, and it fosters gratitude for the things we often take for granted, like a warm meal. These voluntary hardships don't just build resilience, they shift your perspective, making life's everyday inconveniences feel far less overwhelming. The beauty of this Stoic practice is that it doesn't have to involve extreme measures. Voluntary discomfort can be as simple as walking instead of driving, spending a day without your phone, or carrying out a task you've been putting off because it feels unpleasant. The key is to actively and intentionally step outside your comfort zone. Each time you do, you're rewiring your brain to handle uncertainty and adversity with greater ease. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one small discomfort you could experiment with this week? Maybe it's waking up earlier than usual, skipping that morning coffee, or saying no to something you'd usually say yes to. Think of it not as punishment, but as practice, a way to train your mind to see discomfort as manageable, maybe even empowering. By embracing voluntary discomfort, you're building a mental foundation that can weather life's storms. You're proving to yourself that obstacles, fears, and uncertainties are not as insurmountable as they seem, because you've trained for them. And when those larger challenges inevitably appear, you'll face them with the quiet, steady confidence of someone who's already walked through discomfort and come out stronger on the other side. What if you could reduce the grip of fear, not by avoiding it, but by imagining it? It might sound counterintuitive at first. Why would anyone intentionally dwell on worst-case scenarios? Yet, this is exactly what the Stoics taught with the practice of negative visualization. Far from being a pessimistic exercise, it's actually one of the most powerful tools for cultivating gratitude and resilience. By confronting our fears in a controlled, intentional way, we can prepare ourselves to handle life's challenges with grace, while also deepening our appreciation for what we already have. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, used this technique often. He advised imagining the loss of the things we value most, our possessions, our relationships, even our health, not to depress ourselves, but to build emotional preparedness. He believed that by mentally rehearsing potential hardships, we could reduce the shock and anxiety they might bring if they ever occurred. In his words, he robs present misfortunes of their power who has already seen their coming. The idea is simple. By facing the possibility of loss in your mind, you strip it of its ability to paralyze you with fear. Now, let's translate this into modern life. Imagine financial insecurity, a concern so many of us share. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the fear of losing a job, missing a bill payment, or dealing with unexpected expenses. But instead of letting these fears fester in the background, negative visualization invites you to face them head-on. What would happen if your worst-case financial scenario came true? What actions could you take? Could you reduce your spending, reach out for support, or find alternative income sources? By imagining these possibilities in advance, you're not only creating a plan, but you're also reminding yourself of your own resourcefulness. And once you've seen the scenario play out in your mind, it feels less overwhelming, less like an impossible unknown. This practice also works well with personal health. Let's say you're worried about developing a certain illness or facing a physical setback. Instead of being consumed by unease, try this. Visualize what life would look like if it actually happened. How would you adapt? Could you lean on your support network? Focus on what you could still do instead of fixating on what you might lose. Often, you'll realize that even in the worst case, life would still go on, but it would require strength, awareness, and acceptance, all of which you can cultivate now by reflecting on these possibilities. Negative visualization doesn't just prepare you for hardship, it also enriches your daily life by helping you appreciate what you have. Let's try a quick thought experiment. Picture something or someone you deeply value. Maybe it's your home, a close friend, or even something as simple as your morning coffee ritual. Now, imagine what life would be like without it. Imagine waking up tomorrow and it's gone. What would you miss most? How would its absence affect you? While this may feel uncomfortable at first, notice the gratitude that begins to arise. You start to see that this thing, which you might have taken for granted, is actually a gift. And when you open your eyes and realize it's still there, everything feels a little more vivid, a little more precious. I want to leave you with a reflective challenge. Think about something in your life that holds deep meaning. Maybe it's a relationship, your health, or even your time. Take a few moments to imagine losing it. Process that thought fully, and then when you return to the present, ask yourself this: how can I cherish it more today? How can I live with greater appreciation for what I already have instead of always longing for what I don't? Negative visualization isn't about wallowing in fear, it's about confronting it, disarming it, and ultimately transforming it into gratitude and preparedness. It's a reminder that life is fragile, unpredictable, and fleeting, but that's what makes it so profoundly valuable. By embracing this practice, you not only become better equipped to handle life's curveballs, but also more attuned to the beauty of what's right in front of you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This single sentence captures the essence of a transformative Stoic principle known as Amor, Fati, the love of fate. It's not just about accepting what happens in life, but actively embracing it, seeing every event, whether joyful or painful, as a necessary piece of your journey. This mindset shift has the power to radically change how you experience life. Instead of resisting what is, you learn to flow with it, transforming barriers into stepping stones and setbacks into growth. Let's explore what this means. So often in life, we suffer not because of what has happened, but because of our resistance to it. We wish things were different, better, easier, somehow aligned with our own expectations. But this resistance creates unnecessary tension and pain. Think about it. When a plan falls apart, do you stew in frustration, replaying the what-ifs in your mind? When someone treats you unfairly, do you cling to anger, wishing they'd acted differently? These reactions are natural, but they also trap us in a cycle of emotional struggle. The Stoics teach us that peace begins where resistance ends. By practicing Amor, Fati, you embrace reality as it unfolds, trusting that every experience, no matter how difficult, is shaping you into who you're meant to become. To see how this plays out, let's look at an example. Imagine you've been working toward an exciting opportunity, maybe a new job, an important presentation, or a project you're passionate about. Then, at the last moment, it falls through. Perhaps the job offer goes to someone else, or the presentation gets cancelled unexpectedly. The initial reaction might be disappointment, frustration, or even despair. You might replay the situation endlessly in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently to change the outcome. But here's where Amor, Fati, offers a way forward. Instead of fixating on what's been lost, you can choose to see this event as necessary. Perhaps it's redirecting you towards something even better, giving you the chance to refine your skills or teaching you patience and resilience. By loving your fate, you release the "why me" mindset and replace it with trust in the process. And by doing so, you find peace even in the midst of chaos. Here's a more everyday scenario. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. You're late, frustrated, your mind racing with worst-case scenarios. But what if, instead of resisting the reality of the delay, you embraced it? What if you saw this as a moment to breathe, to collect your thoughts, or even listen to a podcast you hadn't had time for? In doing so, you transform a stressful situation into a productive or even meaningful one. The traffic doesn't go away, but your relationship with it changes entirely. Now, this doesn't mean you have to celebrate every hardship with a big smile. It's not about forcing positivity. Amor, Fati is deeper than that. It's about cultivating a quiet, steady gratitude for the journey itself, trusting that every twist and turn is leading you where you're meant to go. It's about looking at life and saying, I may not have chosen this, but I choose to embrace it. So here's a question for reflection. Think about a situation in your life right now that isn't going the way you hoped. Maybe it's a personal challenge, a professional setback, or even just a minor inconvenience that's been lingering in your mind. How can you practice loving your fate in this moment? What might happen if, instead of wishing for things to change, you embrace them exactly as they are? By practicing Amor, Fati you unlock a profound sense of freedom. You stop fighting against reality and start working with it. And when you can do that, life's challenges stop feeling like obstacles and start feeling like opportunities for growth, resilience, and transformation. Because in the end, it's not just about accepting what happens, it's about learning to love every twist and turn of the path that's uniquely yours. The mind is strongest when it is disciplined. This principle lies at the very heart of Stoic philosophy, and it's one that holds immense relevance in today's distraction-filled world. The Stoics believed that self-discipline was the foundation of mental resilience. Without it, we're at the mercy of our impulses, swayed by fleeting emotions, and unable to make decisions rooted in wisdom and clarity. But with discipline, the mind becomes a steady, unshakable force capable of navigating life's challenges with purpose and composure. Let's unpack this idea a bit. At its core, self-discipline is about mastery over the self, being able to choose long-term growth over short-term gratification. The Stoics understood that human nature comes with impulses, those automatic reactions of anger, fear, greed, or laziness. These are not inherently bad, they're simply part of being human. But they also recognize that if we let these impulses control us, we lose the ability to act in alignment with our values. Instead of being proactive, we become reactive, and instead of finding peace, we feel chaos. Self-discipline, then, is the skill that allows us to pause, assess, and act intentionally. It's not about denying yourself joy or becoming rigid, but about creating the mental freedom to make better choices. Here's how this might look in practice. Let's say you find yourself constantly distracted by your phone. You're scrolling through social media, checking notifications, or responding to messages, all while telling yourself you'll get to that important task soon. The result, hours slip by, your focus is fragmented, and you're left feeling unproductive and frustrated. A Stoic approach to this would be to implement boundaries, something as simple as dedicating a specific time to check your phone while keeping it out of reach otherwise. By exercising this small act of discipline, you're not only regaining control of your time, but you're also training your mind to resist the pull of instant gratification. Over time, this builds a stronger sense of self-mastery. Another example is committing to a morning routine. The Stoics valued structure and intentionality in their lives, and creating a consistent routine is a modern way to practice this. You might set aside time each morning for quiet reflection, journaling, or even just preparing for the day ahead without rushing. This small discipline has a ripple effect. It sets the tone for your mindset throughout the day. Rather than feeling scattered or overwhelmed, you start to approach your tasks with clarity and purpose. These simple habits might seem insignificant, but they're powerful because they build the mental muscles of consistency and focus. And here's the deeper truth: self-discipline spills over into every area of life. When you learn to master small things, resisting distractions, sticking to a routine, or saying no to unnecessary temptations, you're also strengthening your ability to handle much bigger challenges. You're creating a resilience that allows you to stay calm under pressure, make thoughtful decisions, and avoid being controlled by emotions or external circumstances. Self-discipline isn't just about doing hard things for the sake of it. It's about creating a life that feels intentional and aligned with your values. So let me ask you this: what's one area of your life where you could exercise more self-discipline? Maybe it's limiting screen time, committing to physical exercise, or even being more mindful of your spending habits. Try choosing one small, specific action you can commit to this week. It doesn't have to be monumental. Start with something manageable. The goal is to build the habit of discipline step by step until it becomes second nature. By practicing self-discipline, you're not only creating a stronger, sharper mind, but also laying the groundwork for a more resilient, fulfilling life. Each small act of discipline is a reminder to yourself that you are in control, not your impulses, not your distractions, just you. And that is the foundation of an unbreakable mindset. Seneca reminds us, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. In these few words, he offers a timeless piece of wisdom. The greatest refuge we have isn't found in a distant location or a new circumstance, it's within ourselves. But how often do we allow ourselves to retreat inward, away from the noise of the world, and simply be asterisk? Developing inner silence, calmness within our minds isn't just a luxury. For the Stoics, it was an essential practice for building an unshakable mindset. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected lives, silence and solitude have become rare. We're constantly bombarded by notifications, news, and conversations, the endless hum of external input. And while we may feel productive or entertained, this constant stream of noise can leave us feeling mentally scattered and emotionally drained. The Stoics, however, believed that strength and clarity come from turning down the external volume and learning to listen to the stillness within. When we take time for quiet reflection, we not only calm the storm of daily life, but also build a deeper connection with our values and emotions. This connection acts as our anchor when life around us feels overwhelming. So how do we cultivate this inner silence in practical terms? Let's start with something simple: daily journaling. Marcus Aurelius, arguably one of the most powerful figures in history as Emperor of Rome, wrote his private reflections in what we now know as meditations. He used this practice as a way to engage with his thoughts, clarify his intentions, and prepare his mindset. Journaling doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. Even a few minutes each day to write down your thoughts, challenges, or observations can create a sense of calm and focus. Think of it as clearing mental clutter. It's a way to externalize the chaos in your mind, leaving behind clarity and insight. Another practice is setting aside intentional moments for disconnecting. That could mean stepping away from your phone, closing your laptop, or turning off the television. For 5 minutes a day, sit in silence, no distractions, no agenda, just you and your thoughts. At first, this might feel uncomfortable. Your mind might race, or you might feel the urge to do something. But over time, this simple act of sitting quietly becomes a way to reset your mind. It's a chance to observe your thoughts without judgment, to notice how you're feeling, or even just to breathe. This kind of mindfulness sharpens your awareness and helps you find peace, even amid life's busyness. Think of these practices, journaling, moments of silence, or even mindful solitude, as a form of mental training. Each time you retreat inward, you strengthen your ability to remain calm under pressure. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking, understand what truly matters to you, and build a sense of trust in yourself. When the external world throws challenges your way, you won't feel as easily shaken because you've cultivated a deep, steady calm within. Here's a question for you to reflect on. When was the last time you sat alone with your thoughts, free from distractions, and simply focused on your inner self? If it's been a while, I encourage you to start small. Set aside just 5 minutes today, no screens, no noise, just 5 quiet minutes to listen to your own mind. What thoughts arise? How does it feel to step back from the busyness of the day? By practicing reflection and embracing solitude, you create a space where you can recharge, refocus, and reconnect with who you are at your core. This inner silence isn't just a momentary escape, it's a foundation. It's where clarity, resilience, and strength are built, one quiet moment at a time. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not, said Epictetus. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. These words from the Stoic philosopher remind us of a profound yet often overlooked truth. Gratitude is not just a fleeting feeling, but a powerful tool for grounding the mind in turbulent times. When life feels chaotic or overwhelming, gratitude serves as a mental anchor, a way to shift our focus from what we lack to the abundance already present in our lives. Think about it. How often do we get caught up in the endless pursuit of more success, more possessions, more recognition? While ambition can drive us to grow, it can also blind us to the value of what we've already achieved. The Stoics recognized this tendency, and they advocated for gratitude as an antidote to dissatisfaction, envy, and negativity. Gratitude is the practice of actively appreciating what we have here and now. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect or ignoring life's challenges. Instead, it's about training the mind to find the good, even in imperfect circumstances. Gratitude holds immense power because it alters the way we perceive the world. Imagine it like adjusting the lens through which you view your life. When you focus on what's missing, the flaws, the struggles, it's easy to feel weighed down. But when you consciously choose to notice the small moments of joy, the support of loved ones, or even the simple comforts of daily life, your perspective shifts. You begin to see abundance where there once was lack, peace where there once was frustration. This isn't just a feel-good notion, there's evidence to back it up. Studies in psychology have shown that people who regularly practice gratitude report higher levels of happiness, reduced stress, and better resilience when facing difficulties. One way to harness this power is by creating a gratitude journal. This doesn't need to be elaborate, just take a few minutes each day to jot down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Maybe it's the warmth of your morning coffee, the kindness of a stranger, or a moment of laughter you shared with a friend. Writing these down helps you pause and reflect, shifting your focus from what's wrong to what's right in your life. And over time, this small habit can have a profound impact on your mindset. Another practical approach is the simple act of expressing thanks out loud. Whether it's thanking someone directly for their support or just reflecting on things you're grateful for in the quiet of your own mind, the verbal acknowledgement of gratitude reinforces its effect. For example, you might take a moment at the end of your day to say, "I'm thankful for the opportunity to learn something new today," or "I'm grateful for the strength I had to get through a tough situation." These moments don't just remind you of the good, they also create a habit of focusing on the positive, even during life's storms. Take a moment now. I want you to think of 3 things you're grateful for in this very moment. It could be as simple as the device you're using to watch this, the roof over your head, or the presence of a loved one in your life. What comes to mind? Reflect on how these things bring value, comfort, or joy into your life. How does it feel to shift your attention to gratitude, even for just a few seconds? By practicing gratitude regularly, you're not ignoring life's difficulties, you're building a mindset that's resilient enough to handle them. You're reminding yourself that even in the midst of struggle, there is still goodness to be found. Gratitude doesn't just help you survive challenging times, it helps you thrive in them, because when you anchor yourself in thankfulness, you gain a powerful perspective that no matter what happens, you already have something to be thankful for. And that is a mindset that cannot be broken. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Seneca once wrote, "Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." This sentiment captures the essence of a profound Stoic concept, Memento Mori *, translated as "remember you will die." It might sound morbid at first, but the intention behind it is anything but. The idea is not to dwell on death, but to use the knowledge of life's transience as a tool for clarity, focus, and appreciation. When you embrace the fact that life is finite, you gain the perspective needed to strip away the trivial distractions and focus on what truly matters. Think about how often life's small frustrations consume us. Getting stuck in traffic, an unkind comment from someone, or a mistake at work can make an entire day feel ruined. But when viewed through the lens of impermanence, these moments shrink. In the grand scheme of a life that is fleeting and precious, does it really matter that someone cut you off in traffic? Does one awkward meeting define your worth? Knowing that time is limited can help us rise above these irritations and redirect our energy to things that truly matter, our loved ones, our passions, and the legacy we want to leave behind. Memento Mori also sharpens our priorities. Imagine you were told that you only had 1 year left to live. What would you do differently? Would you spend more time scrolling aimlessly on your phone, or would you make an effort to connect more deeply with friends and family? Would you stay in a job that drains you, or would you seek work that fulfills you? These are the kind of questions Memento Mori invites us to ask, not because we should live recklessly, but because we should live intentionally. The Stoics weren't suggesting we abandon responsibility. Instead, they encouraged us to act with urgency and purpose, knowing that procrastination is often just a symptom of forgetting how little time we have. For a practical example, consider those small, frustrating moments in daily life, like waiting in a long line. Instead of letting impatience take over, use that time to reflect. How would this irritation look if I only had a few months or even days left to live? Chances are it wouldn't matter at all. Now take it one step further. Use that moment to appreciate something instead. Maybe it's the friend you're texting while you wait, the warm cup of coffee in your hand, or even just the ability to pause and breathe. These seemingly insignificant moments are what life is made of. By consciously reflecting on impermanence, you can transform frustration into gratitude and bring yourself back to the present. Here's a simple reflective prompt for you. What if today was your last day? What conversations would you prioritize? What activities would suddenly feel meaningless? And perhaps most importantly, how would you treat the people around you? Would you let anger or impatience get the better of you, or would you act with kindness and understanding? These reflections aren't meant to overwhelm you. They're meant to clarify your values and guide your actions. Embracing impermanence isn't about living in fear of death. It's about living fully because of it. It's recognizing that every second is a gift, and wasting it on petty concerns or procrastination is a disservice to yourself and to those around you. So, as you go about your day, carry Memento Mori with you, not as a grim reminder, but as a source of wisdom. Let it inspire you to focus on what truly matters, to let go of what doesn't, and to live with the kind of clarity and intention that only comes from understanding how precious and fleeting this life really is. Are we only as good as others say we are? It's a question worth asking because so much of our modern lives revolves around seeking approval, from likes on social media to recognition at work, even to compliments from friends and family. But relying on external validation to define our worth is like trying to build a foundation on shifting sand. It's fragile, fleeting, and ultimately outside our control. The Stoics, with their timeless wisdom, teach us to ground our self-worth internally, drawing strength from our own character and actions rather than the opinions of others. Epictetus reminds us, if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. In other words, caring too much about what others think can paralyze us. It can stop us from pursuing meaningful goals, taking risks, or even being true to ourselves. Why? Because the fear of judgment becomes a cage. The Stoics understood this danger and instead encouraged independence from public opinion, teaching that real freedom comes when we detach our self-worth from the approval or criticism of others. Think about social media for a moment. It's a perfect example of how external validation can sneak into our lives and take control. How often do we post something and immediately check for likes or comments? And when they don't meet our expectations, how does it feel? For many, it brings unnecessary insecurity or even self-doubt. But here's the thing, those likes and comments don't define our value. They're just fleeting reactions, often influenced by things entirely outside our control, whether someone's scrolling quickly, distracted, or in a particular mood. None of these factors have anything to do with your worth as a person. The Stoics would argue that grounding your sense of self in such a fragile, external measure is a recipe for unhappiness. Now, let's bring this into the workplace. Recognition can be a wonderful thing. It motivates and encourages us. But what happens when it's absent? Maybe you worked tirelessly on a project only for your efforts to go unnoticed, or a colleague received praise for something you contributed to behind the scenes. It's easy to feel hurt, even resentful, when our efforts aren't acknowledged. Yet, if we rely on those moments of validation to feel good about ourselves, we place our happiness in someone else's hands. The Stoics would say that the true measure of your worth lies not in the applause of others, but in knowing that you acted with integrity, gave your best effort, and aligned your actions with your values. Recognition may come or it may not, but neither should shake your confidence in who you are. Let me offer a practical shift in perspective. Instead of chasing external validation, focus on cultivating internal fulfillment. The next time you achieve something, whether it's at work, in a relationship, or even a personal goal, ask yourself, am I proud of the effort I put in? Did I act in a way that aligns with my principles? If the answer is yes, then that's all the validation you need. It can be empowering to realize that your self-worth is entirely within your control. Now, take a moment to reflect. How often do you rely on external validation for your happiness or sense of self? Do you feel your confidence rise and fall with the opinions of others or the number of likes on a post? What might change if you shifted your focus inward, prioritizing how you feel about your own actions rather than how others perceive them? When we detach from external validation, we begin to live more authentically. We stop performing for others and start acting in alignment with who we truly are. This isn't about ignoring feedback or rejecting community. It's about freeing ourselves from the need for constant approval, so we can stand strong in our values and live with integrity. And that, ultimately, is what makes a mindset truly unbreakable. Our routines are the framework of a strong mind. When life feels chaotic and unpredictable, it's often the small, consistent habits we maintain that bring us a sense of stability. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that structure is essential for cultivating resilience and mental clarity. By creating routines, you build a sense of order amidst the chaos of life, giving your mind a safe harbor to return to when external circumstances feel overwhelming. Think about this. Routines aren't just about getting things done. They're about creating rhythm and purpose in our daily lives. A well-structured routine reduces decision fatigue, allowing us to focus our mental energy on what truly matters. It's like having an anchor that keeps you grounded, no matter how turbulent the waters around you become. When you wake up in the morning and know exactly how you'll start your day, whether it's with meditation, a workout, or simply a quiet moment with a cup of tea, you're already taking control. No matter what the rest of the day holds, you've claimed that moment for yourself, and that's powerful. Let's look at a practical example. Take something as simple as a morning workout. Not only does physical exercise strengthen your body, it also clears your mind and releases endorphins that elevate your mood. By committing to this daily habit, you create a sense of accomplishment before most people have even started their day. It's not necessarily about the intensity of the workout. It could be a brisk walk, some light stretching, or a full gym session. The key is consistency. Over time, this routine becomes part of who you are, reminding you that even in moments of uncertainty, you can control how you show up for yourself. Another example is the practice of morning meditation or journaling. Setting aside just 10 minutes each day to sit quietly with your thoughts or reflect on your intentions can create a profound sense of calm. It's an opportunity to check in with yourself before the demands of the world start pulling for your attention. This simple routine aligns perfectly with Stoic principles as it encourages self-awareness, mindfulness, and intentional living. It doesn't matter if your morning is chaotic or calm, those few minutes are yours, a moment to reset and refocus. Routines also help prepare us for the unexpected. Think about a time when something threw your schedule completely off course, a missed bus, an unexpected crisis at work, or even just a frustrating morning. It's easy to feel swept away in those moments, but having a routine, something familiar to return to, can provide a sense of control even when everything else feels out of control. For instance, if you've established a habit of ending your day with a gratitude journal, that routine can bring closure and perspective to a chaotic day. It's a way to remind yourself that even in the midst of challenges, there's still something to be grateful for. Now, take a moment to reflect. What is one routine you could establish or strengthen to help stabilize your mindset? Maybe it's starting your mornings with intention, committing to a daily walk, or reading a few pages of a book before bed. The goal isn't to create complexity. It's to find something simple and sustainable that brings you a sense of grounding and purpose. When we create consistent routines, we're not just adding structure to our days, we're building resilience, one habit at a time. These small actions compound over time, creating a mindset that is steady, focused, and prepared to face life's uncertainties with strength and clarity. Routines are not just tasks, they are the framework of a strong and resilient mind. So, what will you build into yours? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Such a simple statement, yet it carries immeasurable depth. At its core, this is a call to recognize that life unfolds moment by moment. The past is gone, the future remains uncertain, and the only thing we truly have is right now. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a comforting mantra. It was a guiding principle for building inner peace and mental strength. They understood that when we ground ourselves in the present, we free our minds from the weight of regrets and anxieties. And in doing so, we unlock a kind of tranquility that nothing external can take away. But let's be honest, it's not always easy to stay present, is it? Our minds are constantly pulling us in different directions. We replay past mistakes, wondering how we could have handled things differently. or we project into the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, hoping that worrying about them might somehow prevent them from happening. While these habits are natural, they also weaken the mind. Dwelling on the past keeps us trapped in what can't be changed, and worrying about the future pulls us away from the opportunities right in front of us. The Stoics recognized this, and they urged us to focus instead on the here and now, the one place where we have actual influence. Let's bring this down to a practical level. Imagine you're sitting at your desk, overwhelmed by a looming deadline. Your mind starts racing. What if I don't finish in time? What will my boss say? What if this ruins my reputation? Before you know it, you've spent so much time spiraling in worry that you've made no real progress on the task itself. Now, what if you paused and shifted your perspective? Instead of letting your mind wander into the future, you remind yourself, all I have to do is focus on this one step right now. Maybe that's writing the first sentence or reviewing one aspect of the project. By grounding yourself in the present moment, you take control of your focus and energy, cutting through the noise of fear and uncertainty. Now consider those moments when the past weighs heavily. Perhaps you've had a falling out with a friend, and you keep replaying what was said, wishing you could go back and change it. But here's the truth: no amount of mental effort can rewrite what's already happened. What you can do is shift your attention to how you're showing up right now. Maybe that means reaching out to apologize, letting go of resentment, or simply learning from the experience so you can do better in the future. The power lies in choosing how you respond in this moment, not in trying to undo what's already passed. One of the most effective ways to practice living in the present is through mindfulness techniques. Take a moment to simply observe your breath. Notice the inhale and exhale. Feel the sensation of the air entering your nose, filling your lungs, and leaving your body. This simple act anchors you to the now, pulling your mind away from the constant chatter about what's already happened or what might happen next. Another technique is to engage fully with your senses. Right now, wherever you are, notice what you can see, hear, and feel in your surroundings. These small practices remind you that the present moment is always available to you, no matter where your mind tries to wander. Here's a reflective challenge for you. At some point today, find one moment to intentionally practice presence. Maybe it's during a conversation. Truly listen without thinking about what you'll say next. Or perhaps it's while eating a meal. Pay attention to the flavors and textures rather than scrolling through your phone. Notice how it feels to simply be present without judgment or distraction. The Stoics believed that life is too fleeting to waste it on regrets about yesterday or fears about tomorrow. By grounding ourselves in the present, we reclaim our power and reconnect with what matters most. So ask yourself, how can you show up fully in this moment, right here, right now? Because in the end, the present is all we ever truly have. How does humility strengthen the mind? It's not a question we often ask ourselves, but perhaps we should. In a culture that often equates confidence with knowing it all and success with being right, humility can sometimes feel like a weakness. But in reality, humility is one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate. It's the foundation of growth, resilience, and ultimately, an unbreakable mindset. Far from diminishing you, humility keeps your ego in check, clears the way for self-improvement, and helps you build stronger, more authentic connections with others. So, what does humility really mean? For the Stoics, humility wasn't about self-deprecation or seeing yourself as less than others. Instead, it was about recognizing your place in the larger scheme of things. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You are just a soul carrying a corpse." A blunt reminder, yes, but also a grounding one. It's about understanding that we are all flawed, all learning, and that no matter how much we know or achieve, there is always more to discover. This awareness keeps us grounded, prevents arrogance, and opens us up to continued growth. Let's look at a practical example. Have you ever made a mistake at work? Maybe you missed a deadline, overlooked an important detail, or gave incorrect information during a meeting. In that moment, your ego might urge you to deflect blame, make excuses, or avoid addressing the mistake altogether. But think about what happens when you resist being humble. The mistake lingers, tension builds, and trust with your team may even waver. Now, contrast that with what happens when you demonstrate humility. You admit the error, take accountability, and express a willingness to learn from it. While it might feel uncomfortable at first, this approach strengthens your relationships and earns you more respect in the long run. Humility transforms mistakes into opportunities to grow, both as a person and as a professional. Another important way humility strengthens the mind is that it creates space for learning. When we approach life with an attitude of "I already know enough," we close ourselves off to new insights and perspectives. Think about a time when you were too proud to ask for help or admit that you didn't have all the answers. That resistance likely slowed your progress or left you feeling stuck. But when you embrace humility, you acknowledge that there's always room to improve. You give yourself permission to ask questions, seek guidance, and accept constructive feedback. Over time, this mindset not only deepens your knowledge but also reinforces your resilience. You stop seeing mistakes or gaps in understanding as threats to your ego, and instead see them as natural and necessary parts of growth. Now, let's take this deeper with a reflective prompt. Think about a time in your life when you resisted being humble. Maybe it was a moment when you refused to admit you were wrong in an argument, avoided asking for help with a task, or tried to appear more competent than you truly felt. How did that resistance impact the situation? Did it lead to unnecessary stress, conflict, or even missed opportunities? Now imagine how the outcome might have been different if you had approached the situation with humility instead. Would it have fostered greater understanding or collaboration? Would it have given you the chance to grow? Humility is the antidote to the ego's endless hunger for validation and control. It reminds us that strength isn't about always being right or never showing vulnerability. It's about being open to learning, to admitting our faults, and to connecting with others on a human level. And when you live with humility, you create a mindset that isn't rigid or fragile but adaptable and enduring. So, the next time you feel the pull of pride or the fear of admitting a mistake, pause and remind yourself, humility isn't a sign of weakness, it's the ultimate strength. More often than not, we suffer more in imagination than in reality, said Seneca, capturing the essence of how fear operates within us. Fear is often exaggerated by our minds, taking root not in the events themselves, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. The Stoics understood this well and believed that fear is most powerful when it remains undefined and unchallenged. By shining a light on it, by breaking it down rationally, they discovered that much of fear's power dissolves. Let's explore how you can use this timeless Stoic strategy to approach your fears with clarity and confidence. At its core, fear is an emotional response to uncertainty or potential pain. But here's the key: fear thrives in vagueness. When we allow fear to remain abstract, it tends to grow, fueled by what-if scenarios and worst-case thinking. The Stoics taught that the first step to overcoming fear is to confront it head-on with logic. Instead of running from the fear or letting it spiral in your mind, you break it down piece by piece, asking, what exactly am I afraid of? Is this fear rational? What's the worst that could realistically happen? They believe that by dissecting fear in this way, we gain perspective, and with perspective comes power. Consider a common fear: public speaking. Imagine you've been asked to give a presentation at work, but the very thought of standing in front of an audience makes your heart race. At this point, fear might feel overwhelming, something you just want to avoid. but avoidance only feeds fear. So let's take the Stoic approach. Start by asking yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Maybe it's the fear of forgetting what to say, stumbling over your words, or being judged by your colleagues. Then take it further. Is this fear rational? What's the likelihood that all those worst-case scenarios will actually happen? And even if they do, what's the realistic impact? Will stumbling over a word or two ruin your career? Will an awkward moment erase all the hard work you've put in? Probably not. When you examine fear under the lens of logic, its size diminishes. You realize that while the experience might be uncomfortable, it's rarely as catastrophic as your imagination makes it out to be. Breaking fear into manageable pieces is the next step. What actions can you take to prepare and reduce your anxiety? For public speaking, this might mean rehearsing your presentation, practicing in front of a friend, or even taking a few deep breaths before stepping up to speak. These small, tangible actions shift your focus from worrying about the outcome to actively preparing for it. The Stoics knew that fear feeds on passivity, but action, even in small steps, weakens its hold. This method isn't limited to public speaking. Let's say you're afraid of conflict. It could be addressing a difficult issue with a friend or standing up for yourself at work. The same questions apply. What am I afraid of? Is this fear based on reality, or is it exaggerated? What's the worst that could happen? And finally, what steps can I take to address the situation calmly and constructively? By breaking the fear down into smaller, rational pieces, you regain control and begin to see the challenge as something you can handle, rather than something insurmountable. Now I challenge you to reflect on a fear you're currently facing. Is it fear of failure, fear of rejection, or maybe fear of the unknown? Take a moment to analyze it. What are you truly afraid of, and how much of that fear is based on realistic outcomes versus imagined catastrophes? Then ask yourself, what's one small, practical step I can take today to address this fear head-on? The Stoics believed that fear loses its grip when we confront it with reason. When you break fear down, you don't just reduce its power, you gain clarity, courage, and the confidence to face it. Fear may always be a part of life, but when approached rationally, it no longer has to control you. What if failure is just an opportunity to refine ourselves? It's a question worth exploring, especially when failure feels like the end of the road. But the Stoics teach us something radically different. They believe that failure is not inherently good or bad, it's neutral. It's only our perception of failure that labels it as devastating or shameful. Instead of seeing it as a dead end, the Stoics viewed failure as a teacher, often the most valuable one. When approached with the right mindset, failure becomes less about loss and more about growth. It's through our setbacks that we gain perspective, build resilience, and discover what we're truly capable of. Let's start with this. Failure is unavoidable. That's a given. No matter how careful, talented, or prepared you are, there will be moments when things don't go to plan, when you fall short or make a mistake. The Stoics weren't interested in avoiding failure. They were interested in how we respond to it. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." In other words, failure and adversity aren't obstacles to growth. They're the very process of growth. Each stumble teaches us something, sharpens us, and refines us, not despite the setback, but because of it. Take, for example, the experience of losing a job, which is often seen as one of life's major failures. At first, it may feel like the ground has been pulled out from under you. There's fear, uncertainty, and perhaps a blow to your confidence. But now think about how the Stoic perspective might shift that narrative. Losing a job is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply an event, a neutral occurrence. What matters is what you do next. Maybe this loss opens the door for you to pursue something you've always been passionate about but didn't have the courage or time to explore. Maybe it gives you the opportunity to reassess your values, sharpen your skills, or step into a role that aligns more with who you are. Viewed through the lens of Stoicism, this failure is no longer an end. It's a pivot point, a chance to grow. Or consider a personal failure, like making a mistake that hurts a close relationship. These moments can feel heavy with regret and shame, but they're also opportunities for self-awareness. What can this mistake teach you about how you communicate, how you handle conflict, or even how you treat yourself? Failure in this context offers clarity. It strips away the illusion of perfection and allows you to see where you need to improve. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also transformative if you're willing to learn from it. To fully embrace this mindset, it's helpful to reframe failure as feedback. Think of it this way: when a scientist conducts an experiment and it doesn't produce the expected outcome, they don't consider it a failure. Instead, they treat it as data, a clue about what to adjust moving forward. You can approach your life the same way. Each failure offers information: what went wrong? Why didn't things work out the way you'd hoped? What's within your control to change and what's not? When you approach failure like a scientist, curious, open, and willing to adapt, it loses its sting. It becomes part of the process of becoming better. Now, let me ask you this: can you think of a time in your own life when you faced what felt like a failure, but in hindsight, it shaped you into someone stronger, wiser, or more capable? Maybe it was a relationship that ended, a project that didn't succeed, or a goal you didn't reach. How did that experience refine you? What did it teach you about yourself, about others, or about the world around you? The truth is, failure isn't something to fear or avoid. It's something to embrace. It's often where the most meaningful growth happens. The Stoics knew this, and they called us to see failure not as a judgment of who we are, but as a chance to become who we're meant to be. So, the next time life doesn't go as planned, remember, it's not the failure that defines you, it's what you do with it that matters. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Man is born for deeds of kindness, and this is his proper condition of mind when he is helping others." These words may seem simple, but they contain one of the most profound lessons of Stoic philosophy: that a life lived solely for oneself is shallow, while a life devoted to serving others is rich with purpose and meaning. The Stoics understood that helping others doesn't just benefit the people around us, it transforms us, strengthening our mindset and deepening our resilience. When we contribute to something greater than ourselves, we gain a sense of connection and fulfillment that no external success or material possession can offer. Think about it for a moment. How often do we get caught up in our own problems, worries, or ambitions? It's easy to feel consumed by the stresses of daily life, whether it's deadlines, financial concerns, or personal challenges. But when we shift our focus outward, many of these burdens start to feel lighter. Helping someone else, even in a small way, reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. It gives us perspective, showing us that others face challenges too, and that we are capable of making a positive impact no matter how small. This outward focus grounds us in reality and strengthens our ability to endure hardships, because our efforts are no longer just about us, they're part of something bigger. Consider this: when you lend a hand to someone in need, whether it's offering advice, providing support, or even just listening, you're not only helping them, you're also reinforcing your own sense of agency. You're reminded of your ability to influence the world in a meaningful way. This sense of contribution fosters a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. You stop fixating on what you lack and start focusing on what you can give. And in giving, you often receive something much greater, a renewed sense of purpose, gratitude, and connection. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you've had a tough week, work has been overwhelming, and you've been feeling disconnected or unmotivated. The last thing you might feel inclined to do is focus on someone else's needs. But what if you chose to? What if you spent an hour volunteering at a local shelter or mentoring a younger colleague who's going through a rough time? It might feel like effort at first, but here's the magic. Those small acts of service have a way of uplifting both the giver and the receiver. They remind you of your own strengths, your ability to contribute, and the fact that your challenges don't define you. They shift your focus from self-pity to selflessness, from isolation to connection. Service to others doesn't have to be a grand gesture to be meaningful. It can be as simple as checking in on a friend, helping a neighbor carry their groceries, or sharing encouraging words with someone who seems down. Even these seemingly minor acts ripple outward, creating a positive impact that often circles back to you. The Stoics believed that by living for the common good, we not only improve the world around us but also strengthen ourselves. In helping others, we practice patience, empathy, and generosity, qualities that make us more resilient and grounded. Now let's pause and reflect. What's one way you could serve someone else today? Maybe it's offering your time, sharing your knowledge, or simply being present for someone who needs support. Think about the skills, resources, or energy you already have, and how even a small act of service could brighten someone's day. What would that look like? And how might it also enrich your own mindset in the process? The Stoics understood that the value of service to others goes far beyond the immediate act. It's about becoming a person of substance, someone who finds strength and fulfillment in lifting others up. By focusing outward, we not only foster resilience and meaning in our own lives, but also contribute to a network of kindness and connection that strengthens us all. So, how will you make that difference today? How often do we lose peace by trying to measure up? It's a question worth asking, because comparison has quietly become one of the greatest thieves of joy in our daily lives. Whether it's scrolling through social media, seeing a colleague get a promotion, or watching a friend achieve a milestone you haven't yet reached, the temptation to compare yourself to others is everywhere. And it can feel nearly impossible to avoid, but the Stoics, with their timeless wisdom, warned us about this trap over 2,000 years ago. They understood that comparison not only distracts us, but it also weakens us by tying our worth to factors outside of our control. Let's explore why the Stoics believed that letting go of comparison is essential for building a strong and peaceful mind. At its core, comparison is about measuring our value externally against someone else's achievements, possessions, or qualities. This mindset creates an endless cycle of dissatisfaction, because no matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone further ahead, someone with more success, more wealth, or more recognition. Epictetus reminds us, man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. Comparison is one of those imagined anxieties. It tricks us into thinking we're falling behind or not good enough, even if we're doing just fine. The Stoics understood that this constant measuring up isn't just unproductive, it's harmful. It drags your focus away from what you can control, your own growth, and anchors it to things you have zero influence over, like someone else's life path. Let's take social media as a modern example. Picture this: you're scrolling through your feed, and every post seems to be a highlight reel of someone else's life. One friend just bought a new house, another is on a dream vacation, someone else just announced a major career achievement. Before you know it, you're feeling inadequate. You start questioning why your own life doesn't look as glamorous or successful. But here's the truth: social media is not reality. It's a curated snapshot, showing only the best moments while hiding the struggles, failures, and ordinary days that we all go through. Comparing your real, unfiltered life to someone else's edited highlight reel is not only unfair, it's self-destructive. The Stoic approach to this is simple but powerful: focus inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be content to seem what you really are." In other words, stop trying to measure up to anyone else's version of success. Your journey is yours alone. The only meaningful comparison you can make is with who you were yesterday. Are you improving? Are you living in alignment with your values? Are you putting in the effort to become the best version of yourself? These are the questions that matter, not how your life stacks up against someone else's. Here's a practical way to start letting go of comparison. The next time you find yourself feeling envious or inadequate because of someone else's achievements, pause. Ask yourself, why am I comparing my life to theirs? Does this actually help me? Then, shift your focus to what you can control. What's one small step you can take right now to improve yourself or work toward your own goals? By redirecting your energy towards self-improvement, you'll feel empowered rather than defeated. Take a moment now to reflect, where in your life is comparison stealing your joy? Is it in your career, your relationships, your physical appearance? Think about those moments where you feel the sting of not enough. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped focusing on others and turned all that energy inward? How much peace would you reclaim? The Stoics remind us that the measure of a good life is not found in others, it's found within. By letting go of comparison, you free yourself to focus fully on your own growth, your own values, and the parts of your life that truly matter. And in doing so, you'll discover something extraordinary, that the only person you need to measure up to is the person you aim to become. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. It's a striking idea that the very obstacles we perceive as blocking our path are, in fact, the path itself. The Stoics saw challenges not as unfortunate detours or interruptions, but as opportunities for growth, strength, and refinement. Adversity was not something to avoid or lament, but something to embrace, because within every difficulty lies the chance to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. To live with this mindset means shifting how we view hardship. When faced with rejection, failure, or setbacks, the natural reaction might be to resist or to feel defeated. But leaning into challenges instead of running from them creates an incredible transformation. The Stoics believed that life's hardships are like a forge. Each struggle is the fire that tempers our character, testing and strengthening us into something more unbreakable. Without challenges, there is no growth. Without resistance, there is no refinement. For a practical example, let's look at something many of us have faced: rejection. Whether it's being turned down for a job, not being accepted into a program, or even experiencing rejection in a personal relationship, the initial sting can feel deeply personal and discouraging. It's easy to look at rejection as a sign of failure or inadequacy. But what if you reframed it? What if, instead of feeling defeated, you saw rejection as an opportunity to learn or redirect? Perhaps the job you didn't get wasn't meant for you, but the process of preparing for the interview taught you valuable skills and helped you clarify what you really want in your career. Or maybe a personal rejection forced you to reflect on your values and led to greater self-awareness, helping you build more meaningful connections in the future. This reframing doesn't deny that challenges are difficult. Losing an opportunity or facing a setback can absolutely be painful. But the Stoic approach asks us to look beyond the pain and ask, how can this serve me? What can I learn here? How can I become better because of this experience? For example, Thomas Edison, when asked about his countless failed experiments while inventing the light bulb, famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This perspective of seeing obstacles not as walls but as stepping stones is precisely what the Stoics meant when they said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think about a hardship or challenge you faced. Maybe it was a period of uncertainty, a project that didn't succeed, or a personal loss that shook your confidence. At the time, it may have felt overwhelming, even insurmountable. But looking back now, can you see how it shaped you? Did it teach you patience, resilience, or a new way of thinking? Did it lead to opportunities or insights you wouldn't have otherwise discovered? When you begin to see adversity as an essential part of your journey, it no longer feels like something to avoid. Instead, it becomes a tool you can use, a trusted ally that helps you reach your full potential. So the next time you face an obstacle, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what stands in the way right now? And how can I use it to move forward? Because in the Stoic view, every challenge contains the seed of opportunity. It's up to us to recognize it, embrace it, and grow because of it. Epictetus once stated, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." At the heart of this teaching lies a vital concept in Stoic philosophy, the importance of fortifying your will. For the Stoics, willpower wasn't just about resisting temptation or forcing yourself to work harder. It was about cultivating the inner strength to endure life's inevitable difficulties, to stay true to your values, and to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. Strengthening the will is not something that happens by chance. It's an intentional practice built piece by piece, much like training a muscle. Think of willpower as your mental endurance, your capacity to persevere when things get tough. It's the foundation of resilience. When life throws challenges your way, whether it's physical discomfort, emotional setbacks, or temptation to stray from your goals, it's your will that keeps you grounded. Epictetus taught that the secret to enduring difficulty lies in strengthening this will over time. He likened it to preparing yourself for battle or physical training. You don't wait for the storm to arrive before you start building shelter. Instead, you prepare yourself day by day so that when the inevitable storms of life appear, you're ready. The Stoics believed that fortifying your will begins with small, consistent practices. It's not about grand gestures or sudden transformations. It's about cultivating discipline and perseverance through daily acts of commitment. Imagine this. You decide to master a small habit, like waking up 10 minutes earlier each day to reflect or plan your morning. At first, it may seem insignificant, but sticking to this commitment, even when you don't feel like it, strengthens your self-discipline. Every time you honor that commitment, you're proving to yourself that you can act with intention rather than being ruled by fleeting emotions or excuses. Over time, these small wins compound, creating a stronger will that spills over into every area of your life. Let's take another simple yet incredibly effective example, setting a daily goal. This could be as straightforward as drinking a certain amount of water, writing one paragraph in your journal, or dedicating 5 minutes to meditation. The key here isn't the size of the goal, it's the act of following through consistently. Perhaps one day you're tired, distracted, or overwhelmed, and that goal feels like another burden to carry. But in that moment, when your mind tells you to fall back, you choose to keep the promise you made to yourself. That choice, however small, is an act of willpower. It's a signal to yourself that you are in control of your actions, not your temporary feelings. The Stoics understood that practicing willpower with smaller, everyday challenges prepares you for larger, more difficult trials. Think of it as building mental armor. If you've trained yourself to stick to commitments in the small moments, whether it's completing a morning exercise routine or resisting the urge to procrastinate, you'll have the fortitude to stay strong when life's bigger challenges arise. It's not about living without struggle, it's about equipping yourself to endure it without defeat. Now, let's reflect together. What's one area of your life where you'd like to strengthen your willpower? Maybe it's committing to healthier habits, staying focused on a long-term goal, or practicing patience in moments of frustration. Start small. Choose one specific, manageable commitment you can make to yourself today, something that will challenge you just enough to build your mental endurance. Write it down and stick to it, even when it feels inconvenient. Remember, your will is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And with each small victory, you're not just building discipline, you're building a mindset that can withstand life's greatest challenges. Stoic resilience starts in the smallest moments, but its impact can transform your entire life. So, how will you begin strengthening your will today? Have you ever found yourself obsessing over how something will turn out? Maybe it's a job interview, an important presentation, or even a conversation you've been dreading. You've prepared, you've done the work, but you just can't stop worrying about the outcome. Will they like me? Will this project succeed? Will I get what I'm hoping for? These kinds of thoughts are only natural, but they often bring with them unnecessary stress, anxiety, and frustration. The Stoics, however, teach us a liberating alternative. Focus on your effort, not the outcome. Why? Because while you can control the actions you take, you have no control over the result. The Stoic principle of detaching from outcomes asks us to focus entirely on the process, on what we actually can control rather than becoming consumed by the unpredictable results. Epictetus reminds us, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Outcomes depend on so many factors that lie beyond your influence. Other people's decisions, external circumstances, and even luck can all play a role. By tying your happiness or sense of worth solely to results, you're giving your power away to things you can't control. But when you shift your focus to the effort you're putting in, to showing up, doing your best, and acting with integrity, you reclaim that power. Here's an example to bring this idea to life. Imagine you're preparing for an important exam. You've studied for weeks, making flashcards, reviewing notes, and practicing questions. You've done everything within your control to prepare. Come exam day, you feel nervous, but here's where the Stoic mindset comes in. Instead of fixating on the grade you'll get, you remind yourself, the outcome is not entirely in my hands. Maybe the questions will be unexpectedly difficult, maybe they'll test areas you're weaker in, or maybe you'll perform brilliantly. You simply don't know. What asterisk is asterisk in your hands is the effort you've made up to this point and the focus you bring to the task during the test itself. By letting go of attachment to the result, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and can perform at your best. And even if the outcome isn't ideal, you can reflect without regret, knowing you gave it your all. This principle isn't just about reducing stress, it's also about aligning with Stoic virtue. The Stoics valued effort, integrity, and intention over external success. For them, a virtuous life wasn't defined by accolades or achievements, but by acting rightly, regardless of the result. When you focus on effort, you're living in alignment with those values. You're cultivating discipline, resilience, and commitment to excellence, not because of any guaranteed outcome, but because these qualities are worth embodying for their own sake. Now think about an area in your life where you're overly focused on results. Maybe it's a professional goal, like landing a promotion. Or perhaps it's something personal, like getting someone's approval or achieving a fitness milestone. Ask yourself, how would it feel to shift your focus from the outcome to the effort? What would it look like to put your energy into the actions you can control and to let go of worrying about what you can't? Detaching from outcomes doesn't mean you stop caring or striving for success. On the contrary, it allows you to approach every task with greater clarity and intention, free from the paralyzing fear of failure. Because at the end of the day, outcomes are temporary. They happen, they pass, and life moves on. But the effort you put in, the person you become through that effort, that stays with you. So the next time you're tempted to fixate on how something will turn out, remember, true fulfillment doesn't come from the result, it comes from knowing you gave your very best. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe how transient and trivial all mortal things are. Yesterday a drop of semen, tomorrow a handful of ashes." At first glance, this might sound harsh or even unsettling, but its purpose is deeply grounding. What Marcus invites us to consider is how small our daily troubles truly are when viewed against the vastness of existence. This is the Stoic practice of cosmic perspective, a way of stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. When we feel consumed by stress, frustration, or anxiety, this shift in perspective allows us to regain clarity and calm. It reminds us of what truly matters and frees us from the grip of momentary worries. Think about it. How often do we let small, fleeting problems dictate our entire mood? Maybe it's an argument with a coworker, a mistake we made at work, or even running late to an appointment. In those moments, these issues can feel all-encompassing, like they have the power to ruin everything. But what happens if we take a step back and zoom out? The Stoics understood that when we view our lives through a broader lens, the weight of these daily troubles begins to shrink. Life is vast, the universe is even vaster. Our worries, though valid in the moment, are often temporary and insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're dealing with a situation that feels overwhelming. Maybe you had a disagreement with someone close to you, and it's been gnawing at you for days. You replay the conversation endlessly, thinking about what you should have said or how they should have reacted differently. It's easy to get stuck here, trapped by the immediacy of the problem. Now, let's apply the Stoic practice of cosmic perspective. Take a deep breath and imagine how this disagreement will feel in a year. Will it still hold the same weight it does now? What about in 5 years, in 10? Chances are it won't. It will become a distant memory, just one of thousands of small moments in your life. By zooming out, you allow yourself to see that this problem, while real, is not as catastrophic as it feels. This perspective creates space for calm, for forgiveness, and for moving forward. Here's another layer to this perspective: contemplating your place in the vastness of the universe. The Stoics often reflected on how our lives, with all their complexities, are just tiny specks in the grand cosmic timeline. The stars you see at night have been shining for billions of years. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen before you, and countless more will come after you. Against this backdrop, our worries about deadlines, appearances, or temporary disagreements pale in comparison. This isn't meant to diminish your feelings or make you feel insignificant. It's meant to liberate you. When you recognize the scale of the universe, you can stop magnifying small stresses and start focusing on what truly matters, living a life of purpose, character, and connection. Now let's pause for a moment of reflection. Think about a stressor in your own life right now. Maybe it's something at work, a financial issue, or tension in a relationship. Take that worry and imagine yourself looking at it from a year in the future. Then step back even further. Imagine looking at it as if you were standing on the surface of the moon or gazing down at Earth from the stars. How does that problem feel now? Does it still carry the same weight, or has it started to shrink in the face of the bigger picture? By practicing cosmic perspective, we open ourselves to a profound sense of peace. We stop allowing temporary worries to dominate our thoughts and instead focus on the things that truly endure: kindness, purpose, and the connections we share. The next time you feel overwhelmed, remember, life is vast, and within that vastness, most worries are just passing clouds in the sky. Let them drift and focus on what truly matters. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful principles we've explored, principles that can lay the foundation for an unbreakable mindset. The Stoics didn't promise a life free from challenges, but they gave us tools to navigate them with clarity and strength. Let's recap. First, there's acceptance. The Stoics taught us to embrace the reality of what is, rather than wasting energy resisting the things we cannot change. When we free ourselves from wishing life were different, we open the door to peace and greater focus on what truly matters. Think of it as releasing the weight of unnecessary struggle and redirecting that energy toward what's within our control. Next, we have resilience. Life, by its nature, is unpredictable, but as the Stoics remind us, it's not the events themselves that define us, but how we respond to them. Resilience is built when we face adversity head-on, treating every obstacle as an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. What stands in the way truly becomes the way. Then there's perspective. The ability to step back, zoom out, and see the bigger picture transforms how we experience life's challenges. Whether it's the practice of remembering the transient nature of our problems or considering our place in the vastness of the universe, perspective reshapes our worries, reminding us that most troubles are temporary and that what truly matters lies in how we act today. Finally, there's discipline. The Stoics understood that a strong mind is built on consistent action, choosing every day to act in alignment with your values even when it's difficult. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, making progress, and building the kind of inner fortitude that helps you remain grounded no matter what storms come your way. These four principles, acceptance, resilience, perspective, and discipline, aren't just ideas to ponder. They're tools meant to be applied, and as we've seen, applying them doesn't require monumental changes. It starts with small, intentional actions each day, a few minutes of journaling, a conscious effort to let go of a past regret, taking one step toward a goal, no matter how small. These are the moments where an unbreakable mindset is forged, one choice, one practice, one reflection at a time. I'll leave you with the words of Marcus Aurelius, perhaps one of the most empowering reminders of inner strength. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Everything you need to build resilience, peace, and strength already exists within you. It's not about controlling the world, it's about mastering how you respond to it. Now, here's my challenge to you. Which of these Stoic principles will you commit to practicing today? Is it acceptance, by letting go of something outside your control? Is it resilience, by facing a challenge with courage? Perhaps it's perspective, by reframing a worry, or discipline, by taking a small but meaningful step toward your goals. Share your commitment in the comments below. Let's use this space not just to reflect but to inspire one another. How will you take what we've explored today and make it part of your journey? Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic wisdom. Remember, the principles we discussed aren't just concepts, they're a way of living, a way to turn life's trials into triumphs and to live with strength, purpose, and peace. Let's continue this conversation together, and as you step into the days ahead, hold onto the knowledge that no matter what life brings, you have the tools to navigate it with an unbreakable mindset.